This is Financial Standard, the definitive source of news, thought leadership and analysis for Australian wealth management professionals. Financial Standard. Take the lead.
Welcome to the Financial Standard podcast. I'm your host, Karen Vergara, a senior journalist at Financial Standard. July 1 is a special time of the year. It is the middle of winter, it marks the start of a new financial year, and it is typically the date when the government likes to drop new reforms. For financial advisors, how do they pivot in response to all these regulatory reforms coming in at once so that they can help clients be in the most optimal financial position before closing the books on June 30? Jordan Vaka, an independent financial advisor and founder of PlanningSolo, shares some of his tips and tricks. Jordan, thank you so much for your time with us today again on the show.
Not at all. Thank you so much, Karen. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Firstly, tell us a little bit about yourself again, just to refresh our audience's memory, and a bit about your practice.
Of course. I'm an independent financial advisor with PlanningSolo. We focus on helping inexperienced people navigate the financial sides of big transitions like bereavement, divorce, and retirement.
And you're based in Melbourne. Tell us a little bit more about your clients and the type of advice that you provide them.
Sure thing. So our clients are predominantly women. They're coming out of divorce or bereavement. They're generally aged 50 and above. And they're navigating the financial side of things, often for the first time, with a level of detail and depth that they're having to. The financial position is often complex, and there's quite a lot of sort of entities and cash flow concerns and questions, multiple advisors. What I really like to do is step in then, a lot of education, a lot of work together to try to get them through that part of the process and just pass on that confidence and clarity that I think people are looking for in that really one of the worst periods of their lives.
We really want to chat about what does the end of financial year look like for you and your clients. Tell us, what does the preparation look like and when do you start preparing and getting all their affairs in order?
So I have to say this has been a bit of an evolution for us over the last few years. The clientele that I work with, generally, they're not business owners, or not initially. So there hasn't been a lot of urgency around end of financial year. For the last few years, I've taken a bit of a different tack and we've tried to become a little bit more proactive around how we get in contact with people, with our clients, bring the information in, get them in, have that discussion, and just start mapping out the tax planning side. And there's a few areas that make that a bit complex. One of the more complicated areas I've found is collaborating or liaising with their other advisors, particularly their accountants. There's some coordination that comes with that. And then there's also just recognizing what's required and what's possible. And that can be quite difficult.
Tell us about the team that surrounds you and how they help you during this time of the year.
They tolerate me. They don't leave. Every year, I try to be more organized. So this year we sent out our communications in the middle of May. Actually, take a step back. First week of May, we did our planning for how we were going to tackle it. I don't have a huge book of ongoing clients, but it is growing. And so we listed out the people we wanted to talk to ongoing and in the middle of a current engagement as well. We did a bit of a timeline for how we were going to contact them. I wrote the contact and then the team ran with it. So they sent all the emails out. They were the point of call for any client inquiries. They booked in the meetings using Calendly or directly. Once it was booked, they then wrote me the brief on what was going to be required. They wrote me the background on the client's situation, just as a bit of a prompt and a reminder. And then when I had the meetings, they took the recordings, loaded them through our preferred AI file noting system. That generated what we wanted it to. They prepared the advice. I then reviewed the advice, presented it out to the client, and now they're in the midst of implementing everything as we record it. So they're critical.
What does the end of financial year planning and strategizing look like for a pre-retiree versus a retiree client? How does that look like?
There is quite a bit of nuance, but I think in general terms, pre-retiree client, the discussion is primarily how do we get money into super? Retiree client, it's how do we make sure you're taking the minimum out of super? We want to make sure they satisfy all of those rules. There's that bridge period between kind of a year before retirement and 5 years after retirement, where you are talking a lot about non-concessional contributions potentially, potentially liquidating investments out of super. What I've found with the clients I'm working with is the pre-retiree clients, the most successful ones are where we're working over a 3 to 5 year plan. And it's simply checking in and saying, okay, as per the original plan way back when, there's been some changes, but we're now at this phase. And it's, you've sold the property, now we need to get the money to super. Retiree clients, it's quite different. It's, okay, your investments are what they are within super. We need to make sure you take the minimum, talk about complexities, talk about cash flow, talk about income requirements. And it's very much managing that for the longer term.
DIP 296 was a big reform that took place on July 1, and there was a long runway to that. How did you prepare for that in the lead up to July 1? And how did you prepare your clients for it?
So I actually have a confession to make here. I've been in this job now for about 20 years. And I used to get really caught up in the changes and the reforms. And I realized a few years ago that wasn't really doing me any favors, because in advice, we've been really worked up about all the changes that have been proposed. And some of them came into law, some of them didn't. I've kind of been a carryover with DIV 296 is I appreciate there are big changes. And so we have updated our clients over the last 12 months just to prepare what's coming. We have a short list of the clients that will be affected. And that's kind of been about it. Just giving my relationship with my clients is they're not really sophisticated and into the nitty gritty of what's required around things. They rely on us a lot to give them the information they need when they need it. So there's a bit of a filtering process that I've brought into that. It's just preparing them. These changes are coming in. There are things we can do. There's no rush around it. We will deal with it in the year that it happens. I haven't had any clients that are really in that trouble zone with this new set of laws. So it's been relatively easy for me.
Jordan, you mentioned your core specialties include bereavement and divorce and separation. And bearing in mind DIP 296, do you see estate planning strategies evolving as a result of this tax reform?
I imagine they will, particularly as larger balances come in. I mean, it's very clear what the objective of DIV 296 is. So I think if you start from that position, you start to think through, okay, well, do we want to make sure clients don't fall into that bracket? Yes or no? If we do, how do we go about that? And that's where you start talking about different estate planning strategies, getting money out of super, using different alternative investment structures. Obviously, the recent budget changes has made a few of those structures less appealing. It will evolve. I am going to also speak out, maybe, I know there's a lot of angst around the changes that keep being announced. I see them as a professional advisor. For us as advisors, that's actually a good thing. Extra complexity means extra ways we can help our clients. So that's the way I see that. So yes, I think they will evolve. We're going to do more work on getting money out of super, I think, over the journey. But at the same time, that's kind of what the government wants. So yeah, we will work to whatever the rules are as they are.
Let's talk more about super. And from July 1, concessional and non-concessional contribution caps increased. How are you advising clients to take advantage of the higher concessional and non-concessional limits? And do you see clients becoming more engaged with their super as a result of these increasing?
I'll answer the second part of the question first. I think there's a slightly higher proportion of clients that are engaging with their super, which is a great thing. But I think the ones that are engaging with their super are doing so at a greater level of detail and knowledge. And I think we can all acknowledge that's ChatGPT is helping with that. So I think all advisors will have seen some sort of correspondence that's been written or assisted by ChatGPT. So I think the people that are into it are more into it than they were. In terms of that connecting to the contribution side, I'm finding that the people that are coming in now for contribution advice are doing so and they're throwing their hands up saying it's all too complicated. And this is where our skill set as advisors kicks in, because really you've got the 5-year carry forward contribution window, which clients try to take advantage of, but it gets a bit complicated, so we can do that. And then you've got these higher limits that are going to keep coming in. And it's almost a forward projection of how can we optimize the next 5-year carry forward, if that needs to. There's so many moving parts when you're looking at a contribution strategy for a client over a 3 to 8 year period. That is where financial advice really shines. And that's, I think, too overwhelming for a lot of clients to deal with. So yeah, I see that clients are becoming more engaged with their super, but they're also realizing the limits of what they can do and want to do.
Again, just a little bit more on the communication side of things. With any major reforms that affect you and your clients, take us through the process of from the time you learn about all these changes to communicating with them, what they need to know and making sure they understand it and how it affects them. You mentioned this earlier. It's called your filtering process, and they rely on you, don't they, to tell them just the quick facts. So how do you communicate these things to them? Is it by email or one-on-one, text?
One of the responsibilities I take seriously in my business is, again, the people that I work with do not have a lot of interest in their financial picture. They're not reading the AFR. They're not, keeping spreadsheets of things. They are trusting us to do everything, basically. And so that puts a lot of responsibility on us to justify that trust and privilege. And so I have found over the years, passing on my thoughts on every change that is proposed tended to overwhelm clients. And I also had the challenge that I have certain theories and feelings about the way things get announced, and I had to make sure that wasn't being transmitted to the clients. So we have implemented I just don't tell them things now until either they're really going to clearly pass into law, which the budget changes have just been cleared, or it's a really specific impact on them. As they come through. In terms of telling them, I do it one-on-one in the meetings. So
Oh, great.
we don't do email newsletters. We just do it in the meeting. So we see our clients 1 to 2 times a year. Sometimes they'll have questions. What I have with a handful of more engaged clients is they will text and they will say, this has just been announced. Is it something we have to worry about? And I'll say, it is, but we'll cover it at our next meeting. Or, no, it's not really going to affect you guys and here's why. So it's just that open communication. Again, I'm a pretty small business, so that's easier for me to manage. I think as we get larger, we'll need to work out more efficient ways of communicating that. But it is a very heavy responsibility, I think, to filter the information we share with clients. And it's something that I find, not challenging, but it can be quite heavy. It might be age. It might be as I in this for a bit longer, but there's so much noise and fury that happens with changes when they're announced. And that's been the case with the budget changes. There's so much kind of carry on. I think there's a lot of value in an advisor being the steady hand or the steady head and saying, it is what it is. We will deal with it as it happens. And I think there's a lot of value, particularly for my clientele. They've been through huge changes. There's a lot of value in just being we will roll with it. We've got it. And I think that helps clients feel a lot better.
And Jordan, you said your end of financial year planning is an evolving piece. What final comments or tips do you have for other advisors, even for yourself for next year, on how best to prepare?
This is very topical. I've been talking to some advisors lately around this. I'll be upfront. I have had a mixed bag of experiences in working with client accountants. And I think most advisors, anecdotally, have had the same. I'm trying to work out ways that we can make our clients' tax preparation process smoother, faster, more efficient, more effective, rather than raging about what's actually happening in group chats. What can we do about it? So I've already put on the drawing board for first quarter of next calendar year. We're going to sit down and we're going to design a tax pack that we share with clients, and that'll include our tax-deductible invoices. It'll include the investment information when it's released by the provider, superannuation, notice of intent, acknowledgements. If there's income protection involved, those premiums as well as the statement, package it up. I also have some really good accountants who have allowed me to take the list of client questions they send their clients in tax planning period and send that to the clients. So we're going to send that together and say, your accountant will ask you these questions. And if they're not, you should find a new accountant. Have all this prepared so you can get your returns sorted as quickly as possible. This waiting till October, waiting till May nonsense, why bother? Just be prepared, get it done, and then we can start talking about it. The last few years have driven home for me that very few accountants seem to do actual tax planning. Most of them are doing tax responding in July and August when the horse is bolted. We are the planners, and I'm trying to work out a nice way to help implement that attitude in our client relationships with their accountants, because everybody benefits then. The client does, the accountant does, and we do by having a better May and June. So that's my big project for next end of financial year, is how can we really just give a client a go? Like, here's your pack, give it to your accountant, get it done, and let's move on.
That's amazing. That sounds awesome. I wish you all the best with that, and I hope it goes well, and I might check in on you this time next year to see how it's going.
I've said it on a podcast now. I have to do it.
Awesome. Jordan, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it.
No, not at all. Thank you. It was fun.
Thanks for listening to this Financial Standard podcast. For more information, visit financialstandard.com.au. Please keep in mind that the information discussed in this podcast is general in nature and does not consider personal circumstances. Reliance should not be placed on any content without further independent financial research and advice.